Hey, guys, and welcome to another episode of WFM Tipsy Thursdays. I am your show host, the Contact Center Whisperer, the CEO and founder of Solid Rock Consulting. And I'm super excited to be talking to you about this week's topic, which is how do you handle the unexpected changes with demand from a workforce management perspective? And so I'm excited to have with us today for you none other than the resilience expert, Cassandra. Cassandra, thank you so much for being my guest on today's show. I'm super excited to dive right into this topic, okay? So before we do though, tell me a little bit about like when you first found workforce management. Why did you fall in love with it?
So that is actually one of my most favorite questions and to answer. And the reason is because nobody ever says when they grow up they want to be a workforce management.
No,
That
ever.
just doesn't happen. So basically, what ends up happening is you fall into it somehow, and you either like it or you don't. You're either good at it or you're not. So one of the two might happen. So for me, I developed an immediate passion for workforce management, and that has spanned now for 20 years. So I
Wow.
really love it. And I would say my journey with workforce management began in the telecommunications industry. So I won't say which one, but where I was recognized as having an affinity for Excel. And so I was doing
Ah.
projects for people, leadership, that sort of thing. So then a workforce management position became open. And my manager said, "Hey, you should go for that position." I'm like, "No," because I was from the phones. I was like, "Nobody likes those guys. I don't want to be one of those guys. None of my friends will like me anymore." Or so she said, "No, just go. I'm gonna schedule some time for you to just go shadow with one of the analysts, the scheduling analysts, and see what you think, and come back, and let me know." So I did, and I liked it a lot. I saw that it just as I delved deeper into like what I did take the position. I ended up taking the position. And then as I delved deeper into the field, I realized that you could have an immense impact
Mm.
on the organization, no matter what organization you work
Come
at.
on, say
And
that again. An immense
well, you
impact. I
can.
love that.
The immense impact. You can have that immense impact. A lot of people say meaningful. I say immense.
Yeah.
So, and then also people's lives.
Come
So you impact.
on. I
Yes, you're
love
not
that
just.
because that's what when we, sorry, you'll get me started here in a second, Cassandra, because like workforce management is directly impactful to employee experience, the
Mhm.
customer experience, the human experience. And
Yes.
so when people think about just workforce management from a they just schedule people. I'm like, no. These people have an immense impact on people
Mhm.
and business outcomes. So, don't get me started. Let's hop into the show. First question I have up for you is around one of the myths that you commonly see around working with demand changes in the business. What was the biggest mistake or myth that you see around how workforce management handles or engages with the demand change, unexpected demand changes?
Okay. So I would say I wouldn't call it a mistake because to me, it's just an opportunity. It's not really a mistake, but unless it happens over and over again, then that's another
Unless you're not
conversation.
learning.
Right, exactly. But I would say a common myth or misconception about how workforce management can handle unexpected spikes or changes in workforce demand would be that WFM is solely focused on predicting and preparing for anticipated changes in workforce demand rather
Mm.
than being able to respond to unexpected changes. So some people believe that WFM systems, for instance, are inflexible and unable to adapt to sudden shifts in demand. And that's not true. Modern WFM systems are being designed nowadays to be agile, which is one of my favorite words too, and also responsive. So they're integrating advanced analytics, machine learning, which everybody's talking about. That's the latest buzzword these days. And some people don't like it. Some people do. There's controversy around it, but I'm embracing it. I love it. Bring it on. Automate things and also real-time data that it can just pull together to quickly adjust to any unexpected changes, regardless of what they are. It can automatically trigger alerts for you. It can reforecast demand and even automate scheduling adjustments. So you're ensuring that the workforce is optimized to meet the new demand. And then my theory, honestly, is that the misconception may stem from outdated experiences with legacy WFM systems. So, or just a lack of understanding about the capabilities of the technology that you're utilizing at whatever company you work at. So, what typically I've seen happens is that WFM systems are powerful tools that can help any organization navigate anything that's unexpected, regardless of what the change is in demand, with ease and accuracy, as long as you are taking the tool out of the toolbox. And then
love
also
that. Take the tool out the toolbox. That's a mic drop. That's a mic drop. That was good. Taking the tool out. I'm gonna take that one. I'm gonna quote you like the first 2 or 3 times, and then it's gonna be mine. Okay. All right. I love that. Take the tool out the toolbox, for heaven's sakes. So that's so
you have
good.
the hammer, but if you don't take the hammer out, you're not going to be able to use it. So you're not going to be able to put the nail in the wall. So you have to take the tool out of the toolbox, and so to speak, and then utilize it appropriately. Understand the features that are available in the new versions of that tool that you're using or that system that you're using, and then move to the new versions. Make sure that you're keeping up with it, and make sure that you're keeping up to date on training, which is huge. And then with whoever your vendor is. And then if you have a third party who's intercepting between the vendor and they're managing that relationship for you, make sure that you're talking and communicating with them on a regular basis. And if your needs change, you have to tell them. They're not mind readers. So they can tell you what features are available or what's coming down the pipeline. You own that relationship. They're working for you. You tell them what you need, and then they make it happen. But you have to tell them. You can't just wait for them to tell you.
And I think a big gap between organizations telling them, like, so because what you're really talking about here is adoption of your tool, right? Because you're saying one of the big myths is that workforce management tools, when it comes to demand, people think that it's only for predicting and not handling real-time changes in demand. And one of those gaps in them realizing that it can handle real-time changes in demand is not fully adopting and utilizing their tool. And many times the reason they're not fully utilizing and adopting their tool and the new features and things in the tool is because they haven't identified the process in the first place. Like, hey, when volume changes, we need to be looking at this. So they're not even looking at the demand changes real time to even understand that, hey, this is a need that I need from my tool. And so you have features that go unused because they don't have a process, and therefore they don't know that the tool, they're not fully leveraging the tool to scale that process because they don't have the process in the first place. And so I think that that's a big thing to drill in on. I say this all the time, that technology is meant to scale processes, right? And so technology is going to scale a good process just as well as it's going to scale a bad process. It doesn't discriminate. And so if you don't have a process around real time monitoring the demand changes in your business, then guess what? Your tool is going to scale that, meaning it's going to highlight that you're not doing that. You're not responding to real-time changes in demand in your business. And so you're going to be saying, man, we predicted the volume, we're coming in over, but I don't know why we can't, because no one's monitoring, hey, this is how we're performing in the moment. You're looking at the end of day, or maybe you're looking at the end of week of how you came in close to forecast or whatever, but you actually have to have a process of how do I monitor real time, interval by interval, or at least near time. If it's not real time, how do I monitor at least near time, whether that's in the 5, 10, 15 minute increments of how the business is performing. And that's why I believe RTAs in that real time role component is so critical. Most times people think of RTA as like the entry level role to workforce management, and it gets a lot of, entry level feeling vibes. But I believe that the intraday role is so critical to businesses. It's literally like your EKG if we're talking about, like a medical device. You got to keep your finger on the pulse for how your business is performing. And those RTAs are going to be able to tell you that if you have a process around monitoring the business. Don't get me on my soapbox. Hey there, it's Swanita Coi here, and I want to personally invite you to book a WFM Discovery call where we will talk through what your CX customer experience and your EX employee experience goals are for your organization and how you can obtain them by leveraging the WFM discipline. Yes, that's right. Workforce management and operations can work hand in hand together, and I want to talk to you about your goals. How can you have culture and have it efficiently? How can you achieve customer experience without sacrificing on employee experience? That's what we're going to be talking about. So click the link, schedule your call at wfmbuildingbridges.com, and I am excited to dive deep with you. See you soon. Next question I have for you.
Well, actually, before you go on, I just want to make one point in regards to what you said, and just elaborating on what you said, is that I've built teams for workforce management and from the ground up, and I've structured them and that sort of thing. But one of the things I've always made it very important to everybody on my teams are that no one should not have real time up. Everyone. I don't care if you're the workforce manager. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the forecaster. I don't care if you're the real-time person. I don't care if you're the scheduler. I don't care what. Everybody on the team should always have the real-time tool available on their screen in some capacity. And you set the thresholds, which will alert you to notify you that pay attention to me, and you set those thresholds, and everything has that capability. Every tool has that capability these days. And so, but that's everybody's responsibility to be aware of what's going on. And then also to have that dialogue, that two-way dialogue between the forecasters and this, not two-way, but between the real-time people and the forecasters and the schedule. Everybody needs to be communicating because they're
in
all
operations, right?
Yes.
Like not only internally in the workforce management team, but how do we effectively, communicate with operations and partner? Because operations is our customer, and the customer of operations is the customer, right? So we have to be able to make sure that we're supporting operations in a way that empowers them to do their job effectively and be those trusted advisors. And if we're only kind of like communicating internally inside of our teams, like, oh yeah, this has to be this way, you're not taking the tool out the toolbox. From a business perspective, they're not able to then take workforce out of the toolbox because workforce is talking amongst workforce.
There's no value add. There has to be value add.
Absolutely. Yes. So I knew these are meant to be bite-sized educational shows, right? And I knew we were going to get to the bottom of our time and have such a great conversation. This is so good. I have another question for you though, before I let you go. what is one of the tips or pieces of advice you would give to someone new in workforce management or building a workforce management practice in a new business? Maybe they're senior in workforce management and they're building out a new department of workforce management in their organization. What would be one of those tips or pieces of advice you would give them around handling demand changes, sporadic demand changes?
Mhm. Okay, so one of the things I will say is that anybody that you talk to these days, their environment is fast paced, right? And decisions are being made on the fly. And again, communication is key, but I would say my biggest tip would be embrace flexibility and agility. And by doing that, you're setting yourself up for success because we're talking about things like dynamic scheduling. We're talking about staffing allocations, like through just this is where the way that I look at it is this. Um, the objective is to, as you mentioned before, effectively address the business needs, right? And ensure that the interaction is a positive one with the client, which is hard when you are faced with an influx of workload, whatever it might be. Um, because the agent is also going to be getting back to back interactions at that point. They're not going to be happy. And so to mitigate that, make sure to utilize the tools that you have available, know your data sources, make sure that everything's pulling in, make sure that their data is clean, make sure that you recognize any outliers, use the tool to do that because you can do that with the tool. In your real-time monitoring system, you can set it to, let's say, look at percent above call volume actual to forecast threshold, or percent above AHT threshold, and look at that as an outlier and highlight that for me and things like that. You can have it do all that for you. Look at the graphs and the charts that it can spit out for you, and really develop a contingency plan and communicate that plan to everyone, just as you said, that's involved in that journey for that customer, because from beginning to end, there is an impact, and there is different points of impact for each person involved. So like the supervisors that you mentioned, for the operations managers that you mentioned, and for even senior leadership, executive leadership at their level, they're going to want to know what's going on, what's driving these results, what caused us to miss objectives yesterday. Well, you need to know that information, and you need to be able to speak to it. They might come to you in the middle of the day and ask what's going on this morning. You need to know. You need to know what to do, but also no surprises. Do not let anybody get surprised, especially the frontline agent. Because if all of a sudden, like, let's just say you set up something really creative and innovative, and that's your solution, and that's part of your thing, and so you create, let's just say, a flexible group of people that agreed that they're going to be skilled as a backup to do this particular line of business if there is an influx of demand all of a sudden. So you have a group of people, they're there, but they're not going to want to be surprised and all of a sudden get a phone call from somebody they're not prepared to get.
Right.
And because that customer is going to know, they're going to know that they're surprised. They're going to feel that. They're going to hear that in their voice. So, and the agent's not going to like it either. So even though they agreed to it and everybody knows that they agreed to it, it doesn't matter. You have to communicate that you're activating that contingency plan. It's happening now. You're going to be skilled. And then there's use of technology, because I know it. So I use so many different ones that I know the technology has the capability to do mass bulk changes of skilling. And you can set up the groups the way you want to set them up, so you can make it happen quickly. But you have to let them know beforehand. Don't just do
Right.
it. Don't pull the trigger first. Let them know. You know. So That
I
would probably be
absolutely
the one.
love that. Like that was chef's kiss. That was good, especially around the communication of activating the contingency plans, right? Like, hey, first of all, have those contingency plans and then making sure that you activate them. That was so good. If people want to get a hold of you, Cassandra, where can they find you? What are you doing besides skydiving? Because you sent us an amazing skydiving pic that I have
I
to
do
put
like
in here.
it.
But
Um,
where can people find you?
so I would say probably the best place to find me would be on LinkedIn. So I have a customized URL, and I can share that. I don't know how the best way is to share that with everybody.
I'll put it in the comments. I'll put it in the comments, and then that way, and the article that's attached, so people will definitely be able to find it. Okay, cool, on LinkedIn.
Yes, that's the best way. And everybody, I'll say one thing too. You know, thank you so much for not only tuning into today's show with me, but also, I'm thankful just to be a guest on the show, and it's a wonderful show, and it's a wonderful tool also for learning. But I want to also make sure to keep the conversation going. So I want to make sure that we're exploring more ways to optimize everyone's workforce management strategies to plan for the unplanned. Because basically, what you need to do ultimately is you're taking a strategic approach to something that's tactical. So it's interesting,
That's
So I
good.
like all the different diverse, ways that people have done it. And it's just a great way, a great forum to be able to continue to have that conversation.
That's really good. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Was that not epic? I mean, like super epic. Cassandra dropped so many nuggets. I'm not even. We will be here for days trying to recap all the nuggets. I mean, from talking about how people believe that forecasting is just about predicting instead of predicting and being able to respond to the business demand changes in real time. And so, because they don't understand that, many times they're not fully utilizing their resources, whether it be people or the tools that they have at their disposal to respond to those demand changes in real time. Also, some tips she gave us around handling demand changes is one. I love the tip about the communication. That was my chef kiss moment, is because so many times we have these contingency plans, and like she says, people have agreed to the contingency plans, but when it's time to act on the and pull the, activate the contingency plan, you still need to communicate and say, hey, this is what's happening. Remember that fire drill we planned for? It's time to exit the building, right? Like we have to communicate that. Otherwise, yeah, people have planned for the fire drill, but if we don't realize that a fire drill is happening, we're going to sit in the building, until we start smelling smoke and it gets to dangerous levels. So don't let it get to dangerous levels, okay? Anyway, absolutely love this episode. I'm linking to Cassandra's LinkedIn profile in the comments, okay, as well as it'll be accompanied in the blog as well. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this week's WFM Tipsy Thursdays. How should we be responding to unexpected demand changes? You already know what to do. Tune in to next week's show. If you have a comment, question, or topic that you would like to cover, y'all already know what to do. Leave me a comment, DM me, find me where you find me. Until next time, go be great and let's make impact. See y'all soon. Bye.